This is Hemant Mehta on the right, a fellow activist. And on the left is Jonathan Shelley. He's a member of the NIFB, Steven Anderson's cult. If you're unfamiliar with the NIFB or Steven Anderson or whatever, just let me show you a quick clip to give you some context about who we're working with here. He's been kicked off of everything. All of the NIFB preachers been kicked off of every platform, basically, except for, I think, maybe Rumble, and I think maybe BitChute. That's where I found this 30-minute documentary, quote-unquote, on the Holocaust and how it's fake from Steven Anderson. Not even joking. This is from 2015.
You say, well, what's the motive to lie about the Holocaust, Pastor Anderson? Well, here's the motive. Because without the Holocaust, there would be no nation of Israel. We can see the motive to lie about it because the whole justification for going in and creating the modern-day nation of Israel, which is completely satanic, and it was something that Rothschild was behind, and the United...
Okay, now we're going completely off the rails. You think they needed a justification to take that land? They already, Jews already lived in communes there. There were three different types of Jews. There was Sephardic, mostly in Spain or from the USSR area. Ashkenazi, that was kind of in Europe, all through Europe. And then Mizrahi, they were in the Middle East, in the Israel, the old Israel area, Palestine, so on and so forth. And they all lived in communes there. Mizrahi did, in different communes. And they were funded by other countries, secretly and not so secretly. Czechoslovakia was one of those countries that secretly gave the Israelis arms that they required to take Israel. And then the United Nations redrew the borders in 1947. Anyway, they could have done all of that without the Holocaust. Like, I don't even know what he's talking about, but okay. And the Rothschilds?
And it was something that Rothschild was behind, and the United Nations and the world government, etc., all proven in this film, Marching to Zion. The motive's clear to lie about it.
That's not even the worst. That's like way down here on the list of absolutely terrible things he said. He's just a straight up denier. He claims that like it's all made up. And these people that talk to Hemant Mehta, they are members of the NIFB and hold all of the same views, which we're going to talk about in a second. So I want to introduce you to these guys and show you some of the absolutely wacky stuff they had to say. By the way, if you want to watch this whole thing, I go through the whole thing on my Owen Morgan Unfiltered YouTube channel. We're halfway through right now. So Wednesday and Thursday mornings, 10:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m., I cover the whole thing. And afterward, I edit them down, I clean it up, and I re-upload. So if you miss the live stream, just check back later, and a cleaned up, edited version should be available to watch beginning to end. Quick interjection, this won't take long, I promise. I'd appreciate it if you watched to the end of the video, or at least a couple extra seconds, because YouTube bases its algorithm off of watch time. The more watch time a video has, the further the video will go. Also, take a look at my website, owenmorgan.com. I'm selling my book, Understanding Jehovah's Witnesses, 400 pages, and my second book, 100 Questions for Jehovah's Witnesses, which is about 80 pages. And you can find them both there on the website. Audio form, ebook form, whatever. It's about my experiences within the religion and the history of the religion generally. The 100 questions are intended to challenge a religious leader, so I'd appreciate it if you give it a read. Okay, back to the video. Anyway, listen to what these people have to say here. This one is where Hemant Mehta is asking where they get their political information.
You've said, and I don't know if you're joking or if you're telling the truth on, like, you mean this? Like, you've said Hillary Clinton's a lesbian, Sandy Hook was a hoax.
That's straight from Alex Jones.
You've said they put litter boxes in kids' in classrooms.
Why is he laughing? That's false. Is he laughing about spreading false information?
Because kids think they're cats. And you also said, that's been fact-checked. I heard that from multiple sources. All of those things are lies. Where are you getting this information from? Like, what is your media diet?
I found it super interesting that they're just sitting there. They didn't try to, like, rebut any of that. They just sat there and seemed to accept that it was all false. So they go on, these guys, they go on to talk about, like, their media diet, basically. Like, where are they finding their information? And it's super interesting because, as I said, I watched the whole thing beginning to end. I'm not sure if I included this in the clips, but the guy on the right, Jonathan Shelley, he's one of the big pastors. I think he replaced Steven Anderson in one of the churches. He seemed to fully understand exactly how to find legitimate information. He explained the process of finding primary sources, what constitutes a primary source, and things like that. And then he goes on to describe his sources as Twitter, just Twitter, and Gab. What? Those aren't even sources. Those are aggregators. I'm not even going to go down that road at the moment. I'll talk about it more in a minute. But in this next one, they talk about the Pulse nightclub attack. If you guys don't remember, there was an attack where somebody did some absolutely heinous stuff. It was a mass attack. A lot of people died. It was terrible. And these guys on screen celebrated it every single year on the anniversary of the attack. In fact, just a few years ago, they held a Make America Straight Again conference, MASA. And they held that conference on the anniversary of the Pulse nightclub attack. So they're about to deny all this. Oh, I don't celebrate it, so on and so forth. They do. They very clearly do. Listen to this.
Pulse nightclub, not an accident.
Not an accident.
But when that happened, you're happy with that outcome.
I wouldn't say I was necessarily happy. I'm just...
Then why'd he celebrate it by holding a conference on its anniversary? You know, if I celebrate Hitler's birthday by baking a cake on April 20th, 420, yes, that's really when he was born, I feel like, no one could say I'm indifferent to Hitler. People would rightly say, dude loves Hitler. You're celebrating it, okay? You're holding conferences on that date. God, these people are like, they're weasels. They do everything they can to disambiguate and disconnect themselves from any liability or any accountability of any sort. Just come out and tell us what you believe. You do it enough from the pulpit. Just tell us now.
I wouldn't say I was necessarily happy. I'm just, to me, these people deserve death, and the fact that they
gay people
are put to death doesn't make me sad.
But if people are hearing that, even in context, I mean, if they're hearing that message, their takeaway, my fear, is that they're going to say, okay, if I did something like that, they're going to treat me as a hero in this place.
But do you have any proof that we treated this guy as a hero? I don't even know the guy's...
I don't know about the Pulse nightclub guy, but they absolutely do treat people like heroes who do those types of horrific acts. And Hemen Mehta gives a bunch of examples of that kind of thing. And either way, even if they didn't treat them like heroes, it's irrelevant. They do, but it's irrelevant. Because what they're doing is called stochastic terrorism, a well-understood phenomenon where you don't have to specifically instruct anybody to do anything. But by demonizing a person or a group to an extreme degree, you end up producing a number of lone wolf attacks which can't be predicted. Bill O'Reilly famously did this with a Dr. Tiller. He's a doctor who performed abortions all through the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s until one day, Bill O'Reilly came out there every single night on his show on Fox News. He's the headliner on Fox News, the biggest host they had, like Tucker Carlson at the time. He came out there every single day on Fox's top-rated show, primetime slot, and called him Tiller the Baby Killer every single night. Consistently talked about where he was and what he was doing and what he deserved and stuff like that. Until one day, Dr. Tiller was walking out of his church and a lone wolf attacker showed up with a gun, pointed it at his head, and pulled the trigger. That's stochastic terrorism. You demonize somebody enough, it's irrelevant if you instruct people to kill them. It's irrelevant if you specifically say don't kill them. If you demonize them to such a degree, a lone wolf attack is statistically a guarantee. Like libs of TikTok talking about Boston Children's Hospital, I don't even know what they call it, forcing children to have trans surgeries or some other nonsense like that. And suddenly, like 100, 200, 300 bomb threats over the course of 6 months' time are called in to the police for Boston Children's Hospital. Suddenly, the doctors and their families are being followed by stalkers, people driving by their house real slow, taking pictures through their blinds, honking their horn when they go by their house, calling their grandmother, who knows nothing about this, and saying that their son is like a murderer and all this other shit. I know, because this exact situation happened to me because I reported a teacher for violating constitutional right, basically saying that being trans was evil and she didn't agree with it and that the Bible is necessary and if you don't have the Bible, then you won't make it through life, so on and so forth. That's the kind of thing these people do. That's stochastic terrorism. And these people are going to sit here and pretend that they don't understand the concept of stochastic terrorism. In fact, they're going to pretend that the concept doesn't exist. Quick interjection. This won't take long, I promise. I just want to say I'd appreciate it if you check my Patreon. OwenMorgan.com/Patreon to find it. YouTube's algorithm goes up and down, so I can never predict where it's going to be. Having patrons gives me some level of stability. Okay, back to the video.
Do you have any proof that we treated this guy as a hero? I don't even know the guy's name. The guy that went in that club. He's a Muslim, so I would actually preach against him and say, like, he's going to go to hell, and he's just as evil as those people because he can.
It's like completely irrelevant. When you hold conferences on the anniversary of the Pulse nightclub attack, I can only draw one conclusion.
Murder.
While at the same time celebrating the fact that the victims are no longer here.
Well, sometimes God uses bad people to take other bad people out.
Now that's an interesting point. Make note of that one. We'll be talking about it again. Sometimes God uses bad people to take bad people out. So he's celebrating that the people died, right? Is that an admission? Can we accept that now? I don't know why they play coy. Just come out and tell us what you believe. Isn't it like against your religion to pretend that you don't believe the way that you really do believe? If Jehovah's Witnesses deny God or any of the beliefs that they hold, that's it. Like, that's one of the hardest to forgive sins. That's up there. That's grieving the Holy Spirit practically. That's like an unforgivable sin almost. Not quite, but almost for Jehovah's Witnesses. And that's what they're doing.
Bad people out.
But again, what's the takeaway message from that to your congregation?
Takeaway is go kill people that we don't like.
Because this is what I'm worried about. This is why I pay attention to things you guys say.
And as a matter of fact, there have been people who threatened to do something psychotic, and it was so credible that they were actually arrested and charged and convicted and jailed for what they were doing. Like, they were on their way to do it, but because they mentioned it to friends and family or something, like right before they did it, basically the cops intercepted them and arrested them for it. They had like a whole bunch of guns and stuff. And guess what? He went to that guy's church. The guy in the middle, he went to his church. He was his pastor. Matter of fact, the dude who was like intercepted, Tyler, I think was his name, named him as his pastor. How about that, huh? The things that they say have consequences, is the bottom line. Whether they want to accept that is completely irrelevant to me. They have consequences. And here is one of the defining differences between me and Hemant Mehta and Jonathan Shelley and Steven Anderson and these other people. Here's the difference. I'm on the left. They're on the right, you could say. If they were on the left and saying that they wished that, I don't know, let's just pick out a group, saying that they wish that Republicans all died. If they were on their pulpit on the left saying they wish Donald Trump would die, saying they wish that Paul Manafort or his other campaign managers, Alan Dershowitz, I'm just trying to name people involved in the Trump campaign, Jared Kushner, Ivanka, whatever. If he was out there from a lectern saying, I wish that these people would die, they deserve a bullet in the head, they deserve blah, 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 exactly the way that he's saying this right now, I would denounce that in a second. I do not believe in political violence. I do believe in voting people out of office. I do believe in removing them from platforms like YouTube if they violate YouTube's terms of service. I do not believe in jailing somebody for their speech unless they are leading to imminent violence, which in my opinion, stochastic terrorism is like bordering on that. And in some cases, maybe should be prosecuted. The difference isn't in our political views, it's in our strategy, is my point here. I don't accept it from Jonathan Shelley. His whole bit about hating gay people and wishing they were dead and everything. I wouldn't accept it from him if he were on the right talking about gay people as he is, and I wouldn't accept it from him if he's on the left talking about Republicans. It's irrelevant. It's a strategy problem, and it's wrong. So if somebody comes out and, like, as they did, and say that they're going to do something psychotic and they're intercepted by police before they can do it, that's on them. That's their fault. If somebody did some crazy shit and they liked one of my tweets or something, I can confidently say with a clear conscience that is not on me, because I never have ever advocated even for the death penalty. That's how these people get around it. They say, we're not advocating people kill others. We're just saying we want the death penalty. I don't even advocate for the death penalty. I don't want anybody to die, ever. I want them to be better people. And the only reason I ever cover anybody is because I use them as an example of what not to be like. I use them as an example of what is wrong right now, like how this is getting skewed. If this guy just went out here and talked about how he thought being gay was wrong and left it at that, and he wanted to save their souls, that'd be one thing. Disgusting, but not this level disgusting. He's taken it an additional step and says he wants to murder people that he doesn't like, or he wants them murdered anyway. I don't want to get too sidetracked here, but just take a look at this other NIFB preacher, Tommy McMurtry, who was also talking about the LGBT community and how they feel. Like, I really want to draw out how these people feel about it, right? I would never say what he's about to say about anybody.
We know there have always been homos. We know they have always been around. We've read the book of Genesis, okay? Nobody's saying they're never around, but there was a time when society, when our country saw them for what they were, and they put them in their place 6 feet under. And unfortunately, we have forgotten that in our country.
He's saying he wants people dead. He wants them 6 feet under. There was a time when society killed them and buried them, and we've forgotten that. We need to revitalize it. We need to revive that ideal. I don't believe that or talk about it or endorse it to any degree ever for anybody. Forget the fact that 4% of the people on death row are 100% completely and totally innocent. Forget that for a second. The death penalty is wrong anyway. An eye for an eye leaves the whole world blind. But since we're talking about it, imagine walking down the street. Somebody gets off of a bus behind you. You're just walking along, bebopping along, smoking a cigarette or drinking something or whatever, just doing your thing, walking home after work. Suddenly, cops show up and you're surrounded by police all over the place. Like 16 cop cars all surround you, pull out their shotguns and their AR-15s and their handguns and their everythings, and they have body armor on, and they have their loudspeakers say, get on the ground, put your hands behind your head, walk backwards slowly, you know, the whole thing. And you do all of it. You follow that deadly game of Simon Says. They put you in handcuffs, bring you to the jail. You didn't do anything, but you were accused of committing murder. And it just so happens that when that murder was committed, you were at home asleep, alone. You don't have an alibi. That has happened to 4% of the people on death row. Completely innocent. Literally did nothing. And they spent 20 years in prison only to be executed by the state. Have their lives taken from them by the state. I don't like his strategy. It's deeply wrong, but if for no other reason than that right there, we shouldn't be doing the death penalty. Anyway, I'm getting off on a tangent here. The point that I'm so laboriously trying to reach is that I don't care what these people believe, even if they were on my side. Their solutions and their rhetoric are unacceptable. And I can go to bed with a clear conscience at night, no matter what happens, no matter what somebody does in my name or whatever, knowing it wasn't my responsibility, because I have never even come close to advocating for something like that. Right here, man.
Evil as those people, because he committed murder.
While at the same time celebrating the fact that the victims are no longer here.
Well, sometimes God uses bad people to take other bad people out.
But again, what's the takeaway message from that to your congregation? Because this is what I'm worried about. This is why I pay attention to things you guys say. It's not because you think homosexuality is a sin, which plenty of churches believe.
Yeah, many.
It's the idea that, hey, it's not just that someone who is gay died or was murdered. It's that that's a good thing. And when you're saying in any context, that's a good thing, you're sending a message that if something bad happens to them, hey, if it's an accident even, like, meh, whatever, it's fine because the outcome was what we wanted. That to me is concerning because I don't think either of you two would ever do that. I can't say the same for the people who go to your churches. I don't know them.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, and like Hemant Mehta said in this, a guy actually did from one of their churches, from the guy in the center, his church. A guy actually planned out an attack and was on his way to do it, basically, and was arrested. What they do has consequences. What people say has consequences. Donald Trump has acted like a complete scumbag. He is a scumbag. He's admitted to being a scumbag. And you know what the consequence is of having a president who is openly a scumbag? More people feel more free to be scumbags. He's opened that up now. He's made it more accessible, more acceptable. Listen to this next clip from him.
No, what did they do? What did they do to kids? Nothing.
We don't know.
Talking about gay people. What did gay people do to kids? Nothing. We don't know, he says.
Did they do to kids? Nothing.
We don't know. That's the thing.
You don't know. To say that people who are gay, who have not been convicted, who have not, as far as you know, done anything, deserve that same penalty as a Nazi, as someone like Osama bin Laden. That is a leap that, again, I am afraid of what message that sends to people who hear that, because you're not, first, the vigilante justice is scary, but the idea that that person deserves some sort of punishment, not because they did something, in which case we have ways of dealing with that.
Like, not because they, took advantage of kids.
But on the hypothetical theory that they might do something, like...
This is thought crime level stuff. Being arrested for being gay is like thought crime level.
Like, where is that? Anyone is a hypothetical, anything horrible.
Sure, obviously,
you
even
pick on
straight
gay
people
people's-
could be a child molester.
No fucking shit, really. Hey, even a straight person could be an offender, someone who takes advantage of kids. Really? First time hearing of it. Knock me over with a feather. This whole time, if they're to be believed, I thought only gay people took advantage of kids. Huh. Wow. What's it like to have a head that is so full of granite that it barely stays upright on your neck without falling over? What is that like? Do you think he has trouble getting up in the morning, lifting that gigantic granite head he has?
Obviously, even straight people could be a child molester. And again, it's not...
Who could have thunk?
Yeah, of course.
Like, yeah.
Obviously, the Catholic Church is filled with child...
Yes.
And there's a lot of preachers, there's a lot of pastors...
Yes. Oh, my God. Right.
all over this country, because the Bible teaches that it's kind of a result of being a reprobate. It's someone that hates God, doesn't want to get saved, doesn't believe the gospel.
You don't think
that they're
any
given over to
Christian
vile affections
has ever done anything like that?
Yeah, he just said that.
No, I don't think any. I don't think
not
anybody.
real Christian-
Not
they're
real
not
Christians, not saved
I don't think
people.
someone who's saved is capable of a child. But
You're just defining it that way, because as soon as they do something wrong, you're like, well, that person wasn't a real Christian.
yeah, I mean,
it
you would have to
seems like
show
a-
me an example for me to even be challenged on that worldview. But that is my worldview, because
It's an absurd worldview. It's a self-affirming circular worldview. That's the problem. Any example that's given, he'll say, oh, they weren't a real Christian. See, that's how it works. They weren't a real Christian. If they do this thing, they're not a real Christian. And that reaffirms his belief that real Christians don't do those things. There are a lot of real Christians that do those things. Look, here's the thing. Regarding CSA, which is shorthand for the mistreatment of children, the egregious mistreatment of children, CSA, that's what I'm going to call it moving forward. The existence of CSA is everywhere. Okay, every demographic of people has people who commit CSA, child sexual abuse. Every single demographic, everybody. I think it's, I don't know, 5% of the population or something, which is like scary high. Might even be higher than that. That's like insane. But just hypothetically, say it's like 5% of any demographic. That means 5% of Jehovah's Witnesses, 5% of Catholics, 5% of atheists, 5% of pagans, 5% of Mormons, 5% of anybody are like this. Now, here's the million-dollar question. When you find out that somebody is like that, what are you going to do? Are you going to report them to the police, or are you going to cover it up? The Catholic Church chose to cover it up and actually move bishops from parish to parish to protect them from prosecution. That's what the Catholic Church wanted to do. You know why? Because they're afraid that if there was a high-profile prosecution of a Catholic bishop who did that, it would bring negative attention to the Catholic Church. Jehovah's Witnesses did the same thing, basically. They covered it up. They hid it. They created a rule with a billion loopholes that were exploited by CSA perpetrators. And instead of calling the police and, closing those gaps, fixing those loopholes, they covered it up. They pretended it didn't happen because they didn't want to, quote unquote, bring reproach on Jehovah's name. That's the term they use, bring reproach on Jehovah's name. As an atheist myself, I would take pride in turning somebody in who had committed CSA instantly. The moment I find out somebody committed CSA, the next thing I do is get on the phone with the police, make a police report. I don't care how it makes... You know what makes demographics of people look really bad? Covering it up and hiding it. It couldn't possibly make you look any worse than if you cover it up, you hide it. Turn this in. Anyway, sorry, I just got off my little soapbox there.
That is my worldview, because I think, there's certain sin. I'm tempted with all kinds of sin. I could be tempted with virtually anything except for things that the Bible describes as being vile affections. Things like being a homosexual or a child. Those are just repulsive to me, so I don't see how that's possible for a normal, saved person to desire that.
Because he's saved, and that means that he's the definition of saved. So if you're not exactly like him, then you're not saved, I guess, right?
To me, the Bible teaches in Romans 1 that that's a punishment, that they've been given over to have those desires, which are...
That's not what Romans 1:27 says. It says they have done this thing. Actually, Romans 1:27 is talking about male prostitution and pederasty, not about long-term gay marriage or long-term gay relationships. But that's neither here nor there. It doesn't say that being gay is a punishment for doing bad things. It says if you engage in prostitution with a male, if you're a male prostitute specifically, or if you commit pederasty, then you will receive the due iniquities into your body or whatever. You will be punished for doing that thing. He's completely twisting that verse out of proportion. And he doesn't even understand what it means in the first place.
Unnatural and to go against nature, as the Bible describes. And so therefore it's a result of someone having already rejected God in their heart, have no desire to be saved, and will...
Is he misinterpreting this on purpose? He has to be, right?
Not be saved.
I feel like you are just saying as soon as someone crosses the line to do something indefensible in your view, that person is no longer in your club. It's very convenient.
It's circular reasoning. I don't know what else to call that. Or the no true Scotsman fallacy, maybe. I'm the only true person, and if you don't do exactly as I do, then you're also not a true person. So basically, if you commit some act that I don't like, if you commit adultery, you are never a Christian. There's no true Scotsman, no true Christian, unless you follow my exact way of life, my exact standards. Otherwise, you are never a true Christian to begin with. That's the idea here. And it's just absurd. There are so many logical flaws through this whole thing beginning to end that it's scary. We should be using this as an example of what not to do in life. This is what we should avoid, this line of logic at all costs. It's actually a perfect case study. Don't do this. If you catch yourself doing this, think long and hard about what you're doing. Think long and hard about your logic and how you got to where you are.
But here's a guy who got arrested before he did something, and you're basically saying, I'm wiping...
Talking about the Tyler guy, I think. The dude who was on his way to do it and who told people he was going to do something psychotic and kill a bunch of people. He was arrested for it.
Got arrested before he did something, and you're basically saying, I'm wiping my hands clean of that guy.
It's because
even though the kid said that the guy in the middle was his pastor.
I really didn't know him. When he was arrested, they wanted me to do like some funding to help pay for his attorneys.
Who is they, I wonder? What does he mean by they? Does he mean his congregation? Does he mean fellow people who, like this pastor, believe that gay people deserve to die? Is that who he's talking about when he says they? Every single person on his side or that shares his beliefs, every one of them all wanted him to start a fundraiser, but he was the good guy who decided not to, right?
Lawyer fees, and since I didn't know what happened, I didn't do that.
Suddenly super selective about judging people ahead of time, huh?
I didn't just jump to his side and say, yeah, just do whatever you want. Like, I didn't know that, when it happened, I didn't know.
Dude is so discerning. Wow. He really looks into situations and thinks hard about them. Oh, except for when he says that all gay people commit CSA, or at least assumes that they all commit CSA, just based on the fact that they're gay and nothing else.
Like what the truth was about the matter. And so here's the thing that I do. I don't judge the matter before I hear it.
He literally does. That is all he's been doing this whole time.
The reason they're making those connections is because we know what you have said in the past. Like, had the guy gone through and killed people,
but I didn't say to do that, though.
No, you didn't say to do that, but you would have been like, yeah, but it's a good thing that happened.
Right. He celebrated the Pulse nightclub attack by holding a conference on its anniversary called Make America Straight Again. I don't know how it gets clearer. He's pretending he's just dumb as dog, stupidest fucking person alive, has no idea what Hemant Mehta could be talking about here. What?
Well, I'm saying it's a good thing that they're not around children. That's what I said.
And that's my point. Like, they didn't children. You're just
You
like
don't know
making
that,
up a...
though.
He's the most discerning person alive when it comes to somebody on his side, but automatically assumes that this person did everything under the sun if he doesn't like them. This is a joke. Okay, if you catch yourself doing this logical, God, what do I even call this? This logical pitfall that he keeps stepping into, think long and hard about where you are, seriously.
And that's my point. Like, they didn't children. You're just
You
like
don't know
making
that,
up a
though.
thing.
But you don't know that.
Jesus Christ, dude. He's not, see, okay, this is a perfect example of what's called special pleading. He's giving special rules, special deference, and special everything else to a side that he likes while applying a different standard, a double standard, to someone that he doesn't like. So he's saying this Tyler guy, whatever his name was, who was arrested for imminently planning to do something, he was on his way to do it. He didn't know anything about the situation, so he's not going to speak on it at all. But gay people, they're automatically going to commit CSA. That's just how it is. That's insane. Get a grip on reality, bro. Really. Listen to this next one.
I want to know where you guys get your news from.
Okay.
In general. 'Cause
Sure.
You've said, and I don't know if you're joking or if you're telling the truth on, like, you mean this? Like, you've said Hillary Clinton's a lesbian, Sandy Hook was a hoax. You've said they put litter boxes in kids'
He's laughing at this.
in classrooms because kids think they're cats. And you also said, that's been fact-checked. I heard that from multiple sources. All of those things are lies. Where are you getting this information from? Like, what is your media diet?
Well, I think everybody can have a personal opinion.
No. There's factual information, and then there are opinions. Factual yes or no answers are not subject to opinion. You can't have an opinion on whether evolution is real. It's real. You can have an opinion on whether God is real, because there is no like factual information to be found there. It's just something you believe or you don't believe. You either accept or reject the fact of evolution. You believe or don't believe in God. See how that works? I didn't even have a logic class at any point in high school, college, nothing. At no point did I ever have a philosophy, logic, or nothing. So this is below Logic 101. How is he so uninformed about this subject?
Diet.
Well, I think everybody can have a personal opinion. When it comes to...
You didn't say it was an opinion. You said, no, you implied it was a fact. to your congregation?
Well, there is a lot of rumors about Hillary Clinton and Huma
Abedin was her assistant, also Anthony Weiner's wife, or ex-wife maybe, I'm not sure. And this is wading into the QAnon conspiracy theory known as frazzle drip. Just a quick rundown of that. There's a claim that like adrenochrome is the preferred drug of the elites. Adrenochrome is this substance that you have to pull out of a live victim, and then you know it's in their blood, and you drink their blood, and it gives you the best high that you've ever had in your life. And the elites all want adrenochrome. It's all fake. It's from a movie called Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. It's not real. Adrenochrome is a real substance. It's the byproduct of adrenaline. Like after your body releases adrenaline into your system, when it's time to clean up that adrenaline mess, oxygen molecules attach to the adrenaline molecules, and it creates adrenochrome, which is basically, it's made it inert. It cannot affect you anymore. So it's basically like smoking a cigarette. The cigarette would be adrenaline, and the ash is adrenochrome. It's not useful. But the claim with Huma Abedin and Hillary Clinton and frazzle drip, the conspiracy theory frazzle drip, is that Anthony Weiner Anthony Weiner, this is true. Anthony Weiner was sending inappropriate images to people a lot. He had some weird obsession with propagating pictures of his twig and berries far and wide. Don't know why. Until one day he sent it to somebody who was like 17, underage. And he got arrested for that. So anyway, when he was arrested, here's where everything starts to get false. The police show up. They find his laptop. On his laptop, they found a video, again, all fake, of Hillary Clinton and Huma Abedin, Anthony Weiner's wife, Hillary Clinton's assistant, tying a 12-year-old girl to a chair, and Hillary Clinton cuts the girl's face off and puts it over her face, like in... Who did that? Was that in Silence of the Lambs, like Hannibal Lecter? And the reason she did it is because she wanted to get her adrenaline pumping and freaked out so that she could drink it straight from the tap. Completely false. All of it. Every last bit of it. Aside from all of that, adrenochrome is possible to just have. You just get adrenochrome. Scientists have been studying this stuff forever. If you eat it, which, has happened, people have eaten it before. It's a powder that you get. It just gives you a mild headache. You don't need adrenochrome to get a high. You know how you get a high like that? Jump out of an airplane where, with a parachute and everything. Do skydiving or do cliff jumping or whatever. There are a billion extreme sports people do to get adrenaline pumping through their system. You don't need this fake, nonsensical adrenochrome garbage. Anyway, these guys bought right into this QAnon conspiracy theory.
You implied it was a fact to your congregation.
Well, there is a lot of rumors about Hillary Clinton and Huma Abedin, which is...
who was her assistant for several years.
So, and to me, it seems likely. I can't say it's...
Frazzle drip seems likely to you. Okay. Well, now we know that we can't trust a f***ing word out of his mouth, right? Now we know.
A fact, because I would be lying if I said it's fact, because I don't know for sure, but I would say I believe it's very likely.
No. There are supernatural claims in there. There are easily disproven, debunkable scientific claims in there. But okay, yeah, sure, I guess. Super likely, right?
When it comes to the Sandy Hook thing that you brought up, again, there's a lot of strange things with that specific incident.
No, there aren't. This is straight from Alex Jones. I don't want to relitigate Sandy Hook again, but when one of the fathers found out that his kid died, he was on camera at the school when he found out, and he laughed in that moment. And people have odd reactions to deaths. That happens. Stressful situations, scary situations, hard stuff. Sometimes I smile. I can't help but smile because I'm not supposed to, because it's the opposite of what I'm supposed to do. That's like a symptom of OCD, among other things. It's just how it works. There's no conspiracy to be had here. He's taking that one little thing and claiming that the whole thing is fake and was created with crisis actors as a pretext to take your guns. Get a grip on reality.
A lot of strange things with that specific incident that caused me to doubt the veracity of the official story.
Yeah, anyway, Hemant Mehta goes off and basically says the same thing that I did after that. It's just sad. It's a joke. Now we know where he gets his information. The same place that Steven Anderson gets his information, from Alex Jones.
I know you're not getting into politics in your churches, but neither of you are fans of Trump. I know you're not fans of Democrats in general, but you don't seem like fans of Trump or the Republican Party in general, even if there's some overlap there. I am genuinely wondering, I don't know how you guys vote, because it sounds to me from what I hear from your sermons.
That's super interesting, right? You'd think that they all vote for Donald Trump, like right down the line, everybody. And I didn't even think about that. But Hemant Mehta doesn't know.
Sounds to me from what I hear from your sermons, like you have plenty of criticism of Trump as well. But I would guess if you had to pick between the two, that's where you're going to go. But I'm genuinely curious if I don't know the answer to this. Like, am I right to just assume, yeah, you're probably going to vote for Trump or whoever the Republican is on the ballot? Or do you ever say, like, no, the Republican's just as bad, so I'm going to say no, I'm not going to vote, or something like that?
I don't vote.
You don't vote?
No.
He doesn't vote.
I didn't vote in the previous election.
Really?
I have voted in the past.
Me too.
And it was usually Republican, mostly out of just a lot of ignorance, just thinking like, well, if they're Republican, they're probably better than the Democrats, so I'm just going to vote Republican. Yeah. Today,
yeah, that is ignorant.
I'm not against voting in a sense. I think if there was a really good candidate that I liked, then I probably would vote for them.
Is there any candidate you would like?
Now, think about, before he says it, I know who he's going to say. Think about it, okay? This whole time, what's he talked about? He's talked about creating new laws to govern people's lives more strictly, force people into his bubble, and force them to adhere to his backward moral system, right? Death penalty for gay people, death penalty for children who don't obey their parents. I'm not joking. We haven't gotten there yet, but that's one of the things. He wants a government that controls the lives of every man, woman, and child in it. And he wants to arrest people for thought crimes. And I'm not sure if I included this clip, but in this interview anyway, the dude says, we shouldn't even have prisons. People should just be executed. Not for nothing. That's literally exactly what happened in Nazi Germany. That's why the disabled and the elderly and political prisoners and whoever else were all being executed en masse. That was the justification. They're just mouths that we have to keep feeding, and they're not giving anything back, so we might as well kill them. Why not? Anyway, just keep listening here.
In a sense, I think if there was a really good candidate that I liked, then I probably would vote for them.
Is there any candidate you would like? I find it very hard to believe.
Like Ron Paul seemed like a good candidate in times past, and so I think that he's a
so
reasonable...
very libertarian.
I mean, I'm not like libertarian in general. I think that he had some good policies.
Okay.
So libertarians want to shrink the government dramatically. And he actually says, if not in this clip, I'm not sure, then in another clip. I don't remember if I included it or not. But he says, I want to shrink the government. That's not what you've spent the previous hour saying. You spent the other hour in this video that we watched on my Owen Morgan Unfiltered YouTube channel. Spent the previous hour talking about how we need to make the government bigger and give them more of a presence in people's lives and impose your moral beliefs upon people in the country. What he says when he says he wants to shrink government is that he wants to shrink people's effect on government who don't agree with him and grow the effect on government that people who do agree with him have.
Like, I don't necessarily,
out of wars.
I don't really care about the labels as much as I care about what they actually believe or stand for.
Sure, I bet.
So someone that wants to shrink the government,
there you go. Someone who wants to shrink the government. Right.
Shrink the government in general would be a positive for me.
It's such a joke. How can he say this with a straight face? Look, he didn't even crack a smile here.
Shrink the government in general would be a positive for me.
Not even a smile. Nothing. He's dead serious. without a lick of irony. Check the next one out. In this one that we're about to watch, Hemen Mehta brought up the fact that the Bible, the same verses that advocate for the death of gay people or whatever, say that children who disobey their parents should be killed too. Exactly the same as gay people. They should be taken to the town square or whatever and stoned to death. That's the Mosaic law. And this guy twists himself into a pretzel trying to come up with a justification for why that's totally 100% the right thing to do, even though we're not supposed to follow the Mosaic law anymore unless he doesn't eat pork or shellfish or wear cotton and linen blends. Are these suits he's wearing cotton and linen? If so, he's just as guilty as a gay person, seems to me, huh? Anyway, just listen to what he has to say here about children who disobey their parents.
This is true of, alcoholics too. In the moment, yeah, they're not going to listen to you, but give them time. This is true of prisoners today.
Well, it's not saying an alcoholic.
It's
saying a stubborn and rebellious child that's smiting and cursing his parents. That's a different context than just being drunk.
No, it said children who disobey their parents. That's simple.
Context than just being drunk. Rehabilitation is great. And I think that a lot of people, the prodigal son.
But you can't rehab if you've murdered them. You've executed them.
Yeah, obviously at that point, it's the last straw, though.
Ooh, yeah. Kind of found a little bit of a hole in my logical system there, didn't you? Oops. Just picked a whole bouquet of oopsie daisies there. Not sure where to go from here. This guy's starting to realize it in the background here, too. He's like, oh, you're right. Maybe we shouldn't execute everybody.
You've executed them.
Yeah, obviously at that point, it's the last straw, though. It's a serious process that people are going to take seriously and consider. And again, these are coming from their own parents. It's not.
Parents are always trustworthy, 100%. You can always trust a parent to take care of their kid, right?
Coming from an outsider. And I believe that if every once in a while there was a child that was that extreme, if they were publicly executed, it may cause, generally speaking, children to fear their parents more. And
fearing your parents is a good thing. This is insane. How do these people have not one church, not two churches, but a whole network, a denomination called the NIFB? How do they have a denomination? I don't get it. God, how many pastors are there in this? They've got to have, I know roughly how many. I think there are about 20 pastors in this, little grouping. And they're not just in Tempe, Arizona, where Steven Anderson is based out of, if that's still where he is. They're in other areas too, other states. It's all over the place. It's a full-fledged denomination. And they all share the same beliefs by and large. They all think the same things. They all believe the same things about the Holocaust being fake, basically. We'll get there. They all believe the same things about children fearing their parents, not just obeying, but fearing that they're going to die if they don't follow their instructions. They all believe the same things about gay people being murdered in the streets, about no prisons existing anymore because they should all just be executed. Simple as that. This is wild to me.
Generally speaking, children to fear their parents more and to fear the fact that, hey, I need to be a productive member of society. I need to obey my parents. And so, I believe that would be beneficial.
That is absolutely insane. I believe that would be beneficial for kids to fear that their parents will put them to death if they get angry with them. Let me tell you something about kids. Something that I discovered pretty early on. I've had my kid since day one. She's always been with me. And I've always been a single parent, basically, up until 5 years ago or something, when my wife came into the picture and, started working with me. But for the first 10 years of her life or so, give or take, I was a single parent. And I got to tell you, I love her to death. I would do anything for her. Anything. I'd stick a knife in someone's chest for her if that was necessary. I got to tell you, children will make you feel every emotion possible in the human emotional spectrum. You'll feel not just happiness, but unmatched bliss, unmatched just elation at their successes and who they are and what they're doing, what they're up to. You'll feel love and interest and happiness. And at the same time, you'll feel sadness, you'll feel depression, you'll feel anger. You'll feel, you won't hate your kid, of course. You're not supposed to, but you'll hate the things that they're doing. You'll also feel like terrible annoyance. If you guys have never had a kid before, I don't know what it is, but a baby crying is the most ear-piercing, frustrating, twist their head off sound that you'll ever hear in your life. It is so great. It's like nails on a chalkboard hearing your baby crying. Oh my God. I don't know how the human race has survived as long as it has survived when a baby's cry is so insufferably annoying as to like sound like nails on a chalkboard. So the point is, you'll feel the full spectrum of possible human emotions about your kid. Now, in those moments, when you're feeling those nails on a chalkboard feelings, or when you feel pure, unadulterated rage at what the kid is doing, or what the kid's refusing to do, the fact that they're not listening to you, or maybe you are a complete piece of shit. My parents were both worthless pieces of shit my whole life. What then? What if the person is a complete piece of trash? They have the ability to execute their children. Is that really an intelligent thing to do? To set up? To allow people to do that? Do you think that, like, we were more advanced then than we are now? Do you think that we know, or that we knew more about society, culture, science, about everything then than we do now? If you do believe that, you are dumb as dog and dead wrong. You remember earlier that this guy says that if you're gay, he's automatically going to assume that you commit CSA, that you take advantage of kids, right? Just by the fact that you're gay. Or he said at another part in the video that I didn't clip out. He said, if you act gay. Specifically what he said is, if it looks like a queer, if it acts like a queer, it's probably a queer. That's what he said. So if you have a higher pitched voice in his head, that's gay. If you wear earrings, that's gay. Definitionally, that is prejudice, prejudging a situation or a person before knowing anything about it, right? That is what this dude's all about, both of them. Now listen to this clip with that in mind.
But here's a guy who got arrested before he did something, and you're basically saying, I'm wiping my hands clean of that guy.
Well, it's because I really didn't know him when he...
Suddenly, he's the most discerning person on planet Earth, huh?
I'm quoting you here of the Holocaust. Did they kill 6 million? I doubt it. Only if we were lucky.
Yeah, that's...
Holy dude.
That's like one of your most popular articles about me or something.
Because it's an absolutely depraved thing to say. By the way, again, Steven Anderson believes that to the core. He believes that the Holocaust was fake and does all kinds of Holocaust denialism, Holocaust revisionism. He thinks it's all fake. I watched a whole 30-minute video of it so you don't have to, and I clipped out the worst, and some of it gets really graphic and really bad. Rest assured, these people are all Holocaust deniers.
It's a horrible thing to say, but I want to focus on the I doubt it. I want to focus on the I doubt it.
I will answer that, but can I first say that the context of that specific statement was about people that are antichrists? Because I said that they're antichrist and Hitler was an antichrist, and I said if one antichrist kills another, then I'm not sad. So
Antichrist in the Bible is oftentimes misunderstood. It wasn't a proper noun. It wasn't a title. A person who is the Antichrist is going to come along and blah, blah, blah. It was just a category of person. This person is against Jesus. This person is against Jesus. That person's an anti-Jesus. That person is an anti-Christian, an anti-Muslim, an anti-Catholic, whatever. They're an antichrist. It wasn't like a single person the way that a lot of religions believe. And it sounds like he's actually using it in a more correct way, but espousing a completely backward view at the same time.
People that are antichrists, because I said that they're antichrist and Hitler was an antichrist, and I said if one antichrist kills another, then I'm not sad. So I'm not lumping women and children and people that are just innocently just happen to be of a Jewish descent as being killed, that would be lucky, okay?
It sounds like that's what he's doing. Am I wrong?
The context was about the idea of people that worship Satan through the practice of Judaism, and they're a literal antichrist because they deny Jesus as the Christ. If an antichrist killed another antichrist, I wouldn't be sad. I brought up that number just because it's just kind of in my mind like kind of a half joke, kind of like funny.
No, it's not. It's not funny. You know, somebody said to me a while back, a joke is the subversion of expectations. So, for example, Joe Biden says he goes to visit the Navy, right? He goes to an aircraft carrier to inspect the troops. That's normal. That's not unexpected, right? President shows up to inspect troops. And he says, when you're president, they let you do anything. They got on an airplane and flew it all around and shot missiles at enemies and all kinds of stuff. It was great. That would be unexpected, and that is a joke. It's presenting a normal situation and then morphing the situation into one that you wouldn't expect to take place. That's just one construction of a joke. Now, what was the joke here? What was the funny part? What he said, if one non-believer kills another non-believer, he's happy about it. If Nazis kill Jews, he's happy about it. And if Jews kill Nazis, he's happy about it because they're both neither of them are Christian, basically, is his premise, even though that's not even accurate exactly. But whatever. What's funny? I don't get it. I'm really trying to connect with the funny part here.
Sad. I brought up that number just because it's just kind of in my mind like kind of a half joke, kind of like funny, but obviously
Hilarious.
obviously not everybody gets my humor.
I doubt
it's not humor. There's nothing humorous about it. When you state something in a factual way, it's not funny. Like when you go to, like, I don't know, a Jewish Discord server, you walk into a room, you walk into a synagogue, and you say to the people as they're reading the Torah, you interrupt the service and you say, Hitler killed 6 million of you guys. That's not funny. That's not a joke. That's just you being a scumbag.
Obviously, not everybody gets my humor.
But the I doubt it is the thing that I want to focus on, because it's like you're clearly saying it wasn't that many, whether that's a joke to you or not. But again, going back to where are you getting this information from, there are primary sources who could tell you, who are still living today, this is what happened at Auschwitz. I lived through it.
Yeah, literally, actually, people with tattoos on their arm, like tattooed numbers on their arm, alive today. Or at the very least have been in the past 10 years. There are probably still a couple around. You can talk to these people. Primary sources explain what happened. In fact, there are even Nazi soldiers alive today who have been tried with war crimes. Surprisingly, alive today. You could ask them. Primary sources all over the place. Does he do any of that? Does he look into the history? Does he ask historians even? No. He just blindly spouts off garbage.
This is the extent. You have historians who have studied that. Like, I don't know where you get off saying, I doubt the numbers, because who are you going to rely on to give you those numbers then?
Yeah, if he doubts the numbers, that's okay with me. You can doubt that 6 million Jews were killed in the Holocaust. I'm fine with that, really. If you want to doubt that number, fine. Find a more accurate number. You think it's 5,400,000, 385 or something? Okay, prove it. I don't care if it's not 6 million. I care about accuracy. By saying what he's about to say, he's just trying to drive a wedge and create questions. He's just trying to propagandize, to kind of make you think and to raise doubt in your mind as to whether this is true, without actually having any evidence to say it's not, without knowing anything about this field, without having researched absolutely anything at all. He's just trying to instill doubt in people. That's it.
That's my concern.
Yeah, I think it's unknowable. And
no, it's not unknowable.
Like from my worldview, I would think probably millions of Jews did die in World War II. I think they probably rounded up gratuitously to the 6 million number because they...
Okay, well, you're wrong. We have impeccable... let me rephrase. The Nazis were impeccable record keepers. We have very accurate numbers about how many people died. Very accurate.
like that number.
Round up from what?
I don't know. Like I said,
1.3 rounded up to 6.
that sounds
Or-
reasonable. That sounds reasonable. But again, I'm not going to sit here and say that I know, because I don't.
See, he's just trying to create doubt. That's it. He's not trying to make any specific claims. He just wants to make you doubt the truth of the situation.
I just make this joke with people. I say, if I believe 5,999,999 Jews were killed, does that make me a Holocaust denier?
What's the joke? I'm not understanding. Is that a joke? Where was the subverted expectation? That's just a question that you're asking to seed doubt in people's minds about whether the Holocaust actually happened, which it did. I'm really trying to connect here. I really want to understand what the joke is.
Because it seems like it does to people, and I just find that level of over the top bombastic attitude makes me suspicious a little bit of like.
Well, look, if you're suspicious, the thing is, you can question the number. Honestly, you really can. I could question the number if I want. Maybe it's not exactly 6 million. Maybe it is 5,999,999. I have no idea. I'm not a historian. I have to look to historians for the answers on this stuff. I don't speak German or read it. I don't know where these records were obtained, but trustworthy historians who do know German and who have spoken to eyewitnesses and do have copies of the papers from the Nazis at the time, those historians say it's about 6 million, give or take. This isn't a joke. This is him, once again, being a scumbag. Real Pumpkin J, resident German. If Germans are good at anything, it's installing and maintaining an impeccable paper trail and bureaucracy, right? Yeah, Nazis are, like, famous for that.
The top bombastic attitude makes me suspicious a little bit of like, why can't I be curious about this, or why can't I ask questions, or why can't I just see the math on this and how you got there? And it seems like
you can.
Yeah, go nuts. No one's stopping you. Learn about it. Go read. This is such a ridiculous joke. This guy is real. His beliefs are real. There are people who really agree with him. This blows my mind. And props to Hemant Mehta for keeping his cool through the whole thing. I think he did a really good job with this, FYI. Just a message to Hemant, if he's watching, you did a great job. That was really, really well done. You didn't lose your cool. They used the F word for gay people a few times at least. I caught a couple. And you didn't freak out. You didn't react. You just continued on as though they hadn't done anything, because they're reaching for reactions when they do that stuff, and you didn't give it to them. So that was really, really well done. You didn't even need to do anything except facilitate their putting the rope around their own neck. You know, just feed the rope out. You didn't have to do anything at all except for get them to express their ideas and poke holes in it along the way and watch them try to plug those holes and fail miserably. And you just did a phenomenal job with it. So mad respect for how you did that. That was really, really good. And I appreciate you going into the lion's den, if you will. I think they made that joke at the beginning. And again, if you guys want to see more of this, it'll all be on my Owen Morgan Unfiltered YouTube channel. I'm covering the entire thing start to finish. Wednesday mornings and Thursday mornings, 10:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. If you miss the live streams, I'll upload cleaned up, edited versions with like the ums and the uhs cut out and the long spaces. So you can kind of go through that on there if you want to. Anyway, tell me what you think about it in the comments. Check out Hemant Mehta's stuff, friendlyatheist.com. Absolutely fascinating to me. In this crazy world of deleting your own children, do both parents have to agree to the deleting, or does one parent, the one who wants to delete, automatically override the other parent while the orange pill nurse? I would say, to give you a serious answer, I would say they probably believe that both parents need to agree, because they have this whole two-witness thing on the word of 2 or 3 witnesses, blah, 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 blah. It's the basis for Jehovah's Witnesses' 2-witness rule also. And it's just complete nonsense, like all of it. That's just not a good way of governing anything at all. And we know that through past experience. We have cameras and DNA tests and fingerprints and stuff today. We don't need witnesses to whatever to testify to blah, blah, blah. Not like they did back then. You know, when the Bible's describing the 2-witness rule, where on the word of 2 or 3 witnesses, every matter shall be established, blah, blah, blah. It was like, if you want to buy a donkey from somebody, you have to pay scribes to witness the transaction. You have to pay them money to be there so that they can see that the money was exchanged and the donkey was received, and no questions can be asked about it. Yes, it did happen, and everybody got what they wanted. That was the point of the 2-witness rule originally. It was not intended for serious criminal matters, specifically like or CSA, like, you know, child mistreatment. But Jehovah's Witnesses and these guys and everyone else who's a fundamentalist nutcase wants to go to a time when, I guess we don't use DNA tests, we don't use cameras, I don't know, where it's all based on 2 witnesses. So to answer the question more directly, I would say it's probably both parents. That'd be my guess. They both have to agree. And I would say the father probably has final say because he's the head of the household, you see. Insane.